Hey guys, and welcome to this is just going to be a quick video. I found as I was going through some old vlog footage that I had taken a video of me talking about a previous Smallrig cage that I had picked up when I got my Lumix G7. And I had sent that one back, not because there was anything wrong with the cage, but because it didn't fit the way I wanted it to. And that was what they called a Versa cage, in the sense that it was sort of universal. I'm going to go ahead and put that video right after this one so that you can see what I thought of that cage and why I didn't wind up keeping it. But I talk in that video about having traded it for a cage that was purpose-built for the G7. And this is that cage. So as you can see, it fits fairly closely to the camera all around. It's not very heavy. This is just aluminum, but the fit and finish is just astonishingly good, particularly for the price. And most importantly, because it's aware of this camera, it doesn't interfere with any of the ports. So I can get to the outside piece, the battery does everything it's supposed to do. I can get my swing arm, the monitor can swing out and turn, and none of that is interfered with by the cage. And sort of obviously the Versa cage couldn't take all that into account. Now the other features are, like most Smallrig cages, this mounts to the tripod, and I would show you that, but I have this big Kessler plate mounted on the bottom. It mounts to the tripod hole in the bottom, and then it mounts with the hot shoe on the top side. You'll notice there's a gap there. Let me put something on the other side so you can see it. You do not want to tighten that thing all the way down. If you do, you're just putting a little bit of tension on it to keep the camera from twisting. You could, in theory, obviously just crank on that thing and pull this plate all the way up into that hole, but you'd basically just rip the hot shoe out of the top of the camera. That's not what it's for. It's not how it's intended to be used. It's just there to stabilize the camera a little bit. And it does a fantastic job of that. Now, I leave this cage on the camera full time. I can reach over the cage and it feels really good, and in fact it feels a little better because my hands are pretty big. It feels better than the camera does without the cage, to have that extra hold. Obviously there's all the attachment points in the world. There's a cold shoe over here which I could use for the mic that I leave on it. So I use the Rode this Video Micro. Let me get that cable out of there so that it's not banging around on the desk. So because of the cold shoe, I could, in theory, just put it right on the cage, which I have opted to do on occasion, but because, as you can see, the cold shoe plate sort of sticks out on either side, when I can, I use this Smallrig accessory hot shoe that I just kind of bolted on. I like the wider coverage, particularly when I'm putting much heavier things on than this Rode. But as you can see, that makes for a very, very nice, compact, small little rig. It's not that heavy, and I leave that mic on this camera 99.9% of the time. Now, the other interesting feature about this particular cage is this rail here on the side not only has another cold shoe on that 45 degree, but you can see the dovetail here where my thumb is, and that's what they call a NATO mount, which means it's basically a Picatinny rail. They make a number of accessories that go onto that dovetail. They're easy to take on and off, and if you were hanging something really heavy like a monitor, a big monitor, or a big battery pack, I would opt to hang it off of that rail rather than screw it in. It also makes it much easier to take it on and off. They make a number of handles and some other stuff that goes over there. Right, so that's the Smallrig G7 cage on the G7 itself, so you can see sort of why I opted to go with this as opposed to sticking with the Versa rig. There was nothing wrong with the Versa cage, Versa cage, whatever they call it. Mechanically, and it was well made, I just chose to go with this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video after so that you can kind of compare them. And I look forward to doing a little more gear review for you guys in the future. I'm going to be moving most of this gear stuff over to Production Dojo when we kick it off, but I didn't want you guys to wait too long for this video now. Hey guys, I'm actually going to send this version of this cage back, but I wanted to do a quick recording before I did. So this is the Smallrig Versa cage, And as you can see, it's not a bad piece of gear. Basically, it's intended to fit on a number of different cameras, and the idea is, you know, it's flexible, which is nice. And I do like that, you know, there's a number of attachment points and so on that works with it. The problem with this cage is without taking the camera out, this becomes a really unwieldy operation. I could almost live with that, except if you look, if I open the battery door, it doesn't work. It actually gets interfered with by that item right there. So that's a no-go. I'm not going to be taking this thing in and out of this cage every time I want to change the memory card or take the battery out. That's just insanity. So I'm replacing it with the Smallrig cage that's purpose-built for this, and thankfully, you know, you buy stuff on Amazon, I can just ship it right back. Anyway, you probably won't see this video until I get the other cage in, but if you're curious, that's the Smallrig VersaFrame cage. I mean, I gotta tell you, it's well made. It fits. The fit and finish is awesome, and I really like what it does. It's just not going to work for me in the application I have. Take it easy.